A very good afternoon to everyone, and welcome to our innovLogue on skills versus technology augmenting the role of human capital in advanced manufacturing transformation. This event is jointly brought to you by InLab IAL, AMTA, and JTC. My name is Nilanjana, and I'll be your host for today. First of all, I'm very happy to share that we have more than 40 people joining us in person and over 100 joining us online. So, and who might be the audiences? We have different enterprises, solution providers, institutes for adult learning, as well as higher learning institutions, solution providers, and wider public joining us. So, as we start today's program, let me run through some administrative details. In case our online audience accidentally logs out, please just find the link and join us back in. The entire hybrid forum would take around an hour and a half, with 3 presentations, one from AMTA, the other from ST Engineering and Amazon Web Services, and the final one by A-Star SimTech. Followed by that, we have a panel discussion where your question and answers would be addressed collectively and thematically. On screen, you would find a QR code for Slido. During the session, please feel free to pose your questions, and we'll try our best to answer them in our panel forum. The forum will be recorded, and both the slides as well as the recording would be published on our IAL webpage. Now, before we start, please allow me to show you a virtual tour of the Jurong Innovation District where we have gathered today, the ecosystem and the exciting opportunities that are created for Singapore's manufacturing industry.
Manufacturing is entering a new age, an age of endless opportunities for the knowledge industry. Singapore is taking the next big step in developing its advanced manufacturing ecosystem.
Jurong Innovation District will be Asia's leading one-stop advanced manufacturing hub. Wholly master planned, developed and managed by JTC. This district supports our Manufacturing 2030 plan, representing the next lap of manufacturing in Singapore. When fully completed, JID will nurture an ecosystem of technology providers, high-tech manufacturers, researchers, and educational and training institutions. This is where technology, talent, and sustainable design converge to inspire ideas and accelerate solutions.
We've created a living lab environment designed to open up new opportunities, whether you're looking for a testbed for experimentation or partners to develop 5G and artificial intelligence technologies with. JID has it all.
Hyundai Motor Group Innovation Center in Singapore will be an open innovation lab focused on future mobility research. Jurong Innovation District has the right mix of advanced manufacturers, academic institutions, technology providers, and services.
By locating Makino's Additive Manufacturing Center of Excellence in JID, we hope to foster partnerships with more industry partners and institutions.
Key of the Advanced Manufacturing Transformation Center is to accelerate the adoption of the existing and upcoming factories for additive manufacturing. We set up there a complete ecosystem that is accessible to all companies embarking on their digital transformation journey.
Jurong Innovation District has a really big potential and also big advantage. For us at Bosch, it's so important to develop our ecosystem approach, bringing academia, smart industries, smart people together within the Bosch Rexroth plants and also in our facilities.
At its core are people, those who determine your success in your advanced manufacturing journey. Our universities work closely with manufacturers to ensure that thousands of young creative minds are plugged into this ecosystem.
A campus is where one finds deep investigation ideas. It's not merely a physical space, but rather a community developing and growing together.
JID is growing an advanced manufacturing ecosystem and bringing it right to your doorstep. All you have to do is plug and play. The possibilities, they're endless.
Indeed, the transformation has been phenomenal. So Industry 4.0 transformation has not just created new jobs, but has created opportunities and even evolved content of existing roles. What does this mean? This not just means that enterprises and workforce must equip themselves with new skills, but they must also adopt and adapt the innovative tools and approaches that are available to facilitate the workforce upskilling. So what are these resources? Where are they? How can we reach them? And what is the full potential of Industry 4.0? Let's hear more about these insights and actionable tips from our speakers today on augmenting the role of human capital in a fast-growing, high-tech environment, yet not forgetting our sustainable and green goals in a step moving towards Industry 5.0 maybe. Now, without much further ado, let me invite on stage our facilitator and moderator for this session, Mr. Daryl Lim. Daryl is the co-founder and managing partner of Design Thinkers Academy, Singapore. Committed to human-centered design, Daryl has more than 14 years of experience in designing and creating people-related solutions, including people management strategies that focus on employee career journeys. I am sure he will be a very good moderator for this session, for human-centered design in skill and technology area is his forte. Over to you, Daryl.
Thank you, Neela. I'm Daryl from Design Thinkers Academy. I would like to thank first JTC, AMTA, IAL for organizing this event and inviting me to moderate this very distinguished team of experts. As a typical curious design thinker, it is my personal interest to understand more about the latest transformation initiatives. My role as a moderator for today is to join you in this exploration of how some of these initiatives might be applicable for your organizations and also for ourselves. And in particular, how it might be able to help you to rethink your human-centered strategies and its impact on the trajectories of your continued business and personal success. Before I begin, I just want to remind everyone on the online as well as physically that the Q&A is purely via Slido itself. So if you have questions, please go ahead and put your questions onto Slido when the QR code is flashed later on. There will be no floor questions later on, so please join us in putting up your questions on Slido. Number two, there will be an interactive activity at the end of each presentation after each speaker. So please join me in this little quick, simple activity which requires you to use your mobile phones. Number three, please refrain from asking questions on Zoom. This is for all those who are online. Please refrain from using questions or writing anything on Zoom because no one is moderating it. So you'll be talking to yourself. With that, let me introduce the first speaker. Dr. Liu Shiyu is the head of skills development at the Advanced Manufacturing Training Academy, AMTA. He oversees AMTA's industry engagement to identify skills gaps and contributes to the contextualization of training contexts to address training needs identified. Shiyu also leads AMTA's collaboration programs with government agencies, industry leaders, training providers, to provide holistic support to companies' advanced manufacturing transformation. He'll be sharing with us on how manufacturing workforce might be able to future-proof themselves for this Industry 4.0 transformation. But before I invite him on the stage, I have something to share. You know, when I hear people telling me that they are able to identify the skills of today, I get really excited. But when people tell me that I'm able to identify the skills of tomorrow, that's fortune telling. I'll leave that to Dr. Liu. So let us put our hands together for Dr. Liu, please.
Thank you very much, Daryl, for the nice introduction. And for those who are not familiar with AMTA, we are actually a national program supported by various government agencies to accelerate the I 4.0 adoption of manufacturing companies. And we do it through the implementation of company-centric training programs. And in today's sharing, I'm going to talk about how we can partner each other to revitalize the training ecosystem and future-proof our talents for I 4.0 adoption. Well, at AMTA, we work intensely with the manufacturing companies. We engage them, and it gives us a lot of insights into their challenges and frustrations. it is no surprise that a lot of these complaints or frustrations are coming from manpower-related issues. Let's see if this sounds familiar. Well, it is almost impossible for us to hire local talents for the shop floor. The work orders are piling up, but there's no one to man the shifts. Well, I think these are happy problems associated with the talent attraction and retention, but more recently, the workforce resilience is becoming an even more critical issue. Employers are struggling to transfer their workforce across different operations to actually manage the downturn. And they cannot afford to let the people go because knowing that once these people leave, they might not come back. All the manufacturing companies are essentially asking the same question: how can we attract and build a resilient workforce? And we believe the answer lies in the adoption of I 4.0. Well, now, let me actually ask you a question. Comparing of these two shop floor of factories, which one would you like to work in? Can I get a show of hands? Any of you want to work in company A? Well, no, okay. I got one. I presume the rest of you would like to work in company B then? Well, yep. I would choose company B because I'm no longer considered just a pair of hands doing a repetitive and laborious operations, but empowered and entrusted to make critical decisions on the shop floor. The worker is no longer tied down to a single process, but equipped to actually work across different lines because of the horizontal skills gained. Well, the adoption of I 4.0 not only frees up the people to actually adopt higher value roles, but also fundamentally change the image of our manufacturing industry, especially for the younger generations. Looking into the future, adopting of I 4.0 is no longer an option, but a necessity to actually attract and build a resilient workforce. How can we do that? How can we adopt I 4.0? The answer is as easy as identify the difference between these two pictures. Well, most of my sharp eye friends can actually immediately find out that the technology part, the technology, well, like the robot arms, the connectivity, the real-time visibility, these are all the technology part, important. But a lot of them actually didn't realize the importance of the people who are actually commanding these technologies. The new technology and concept in manufacturing has created and shifted the job skills required to make it happen. And this has created one of the biggest challenges in manufacturing, the manufacturing skills gap. Actually, according to a survey by Deloitte, as much as 2 million workers in the US alone will not be finding appropriate jobs if the manufacturing skills gap is not breached through proactive actions. But how can we actually close these manufacturing skills gaps? Of course, we need to understand what they are. At AMTA, we have identified Okay, sorry. At AMTA, we have identified 8 megatrends that is transforming the manufacturing industry, as well as the emerging skills associated with these technologies. And one on the technology side, as we can see, we are seeing increasing adoption of lighthouse manufacturing, smart horizontal and vertical integrations, predictive maintenance, digital twins, additive manufacturing, immersive technologies, advanced materials, and sustainable manufacturing practices. On the right side, we can see the corresponding skills, emerging skills, that is needed to actually enable and accelerate this adoption. I have to admit that this list appears to be quite overwhelming, actually, and our manufacturing companies, especially the SMEs, are finding it challenging to digest these insights and materialize them into actionable items. especially in identifying the detailed skills gaps associated or contextualized to their workforce or their business transformation plans. To address these problems, actually, AMTA developed a 3-step model to help the companies identify and address their manpower needs. Well, it all started to actually create profiles, skills profiles, covering both fundamental and emerging skills aligned with the company's I 4.0 adoption plans. We actually need to have AMTA coming in, both AMTA and its partners coming in to actually help the companies understand the possibility, appreciate the possibilities of I 4.0, and help them to redesign the roles for the future. The second step involves the evaluating the workforce skills against the benchmarks we have established so that the priority training needs and topics could be identified for future training implementation. Let me illustrate this process using an example we have helped with a SME. This is a precision engineering SME, and we helped them develop one example is that we developed a skills profile for their quality engineers. And we did this by asking 4 progressive questions. The first question is actually targeted at the everyday activity. What are the foundation skills that is needed to actually perform this job? Since it's a quality engineer, it involves interpreting the drawings, failure analysis, etc., straightforward. The second question is actually associated is actually aimed at accommodating the current or future I 4.0 implementations. And this actually requires a good understanding of the plans and the technology available. For example, if this company, at this case, they are adopting automated CAM and robotic arms, we need to help them understanding the automation monitoring as well as some of the data management to perform these actions. Especially as more of these measurements activities are being automated, we need to actually enhance the ability of this person, this quality engineers, on data-related tasks because the data is going to be streaming in large volumes. The third, well, I will just let it be. The third question is aimed at enhancing the skills beyond these current roles, something that we will share about the best practices maybe across different industries even. So in this case, we are actually helping them to understand the robotics, process automation, and data mining can actually significantly enhance their productivity in jobs. The last question is actually aimed at addressing the person's career development. And this goes beyond the technical skills, but also covering critical core skills such as leadership, such as change management. After all these skills framework is established, we can then proceed to actually evaluate the workers to find out which are their skills gaps. And all these skills gaps will converge into priority topics we are going to implement for the company. As we all know, having the topic identified is a job half done. But a job half done is as good as none. To fully support the holistic improvement of the companies, AMTA is actually establishing a comprehensive partnership with all the training providers in the ecosystem, and we can actually integrate the resources of different partners to curate holistic programs to facilitate the workforce upskilling. AMTA has also extended this model into a manufacturing workforce transformation pathway, where we help the company to expose to the benefits, the possibilities of I 4.0, evaluate, assess their technology and training gaps, and thus we can develop the corresponding workforce and technology upskilling plans. And finally, we can actually working with the different government agencies and training providers to curate holistic training programs. And so far, we have 11 companies participating in this initiative, and one of them is our partner, UTech. They have already completed the training needs analysis and embark on 2 of our training programs specially curated for them, with another few in the pipeline. we have, similar to our engagement with UTech and all the companies, we have actually engaged 80+ companies to understand their training needs and their skills gaps. And all these has converged into a chart of the common in-demand topics in the training ecosystem. Well, this also reviewed the training gaps. It's in particular, we are identifying skills gaps in terms of the sustainable advanced manufacturing, AR, VR, digital twins. And based on this, we're actually working with our partners to curate relevant training programs. I'm very happy that our partners, ST Engineering and SimTech, is actually here today to share more about this. And before I pass the baton to them, I'd like to thank everyone for your attention and invite the questions. Please post them on the Slido. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shi. Well, the takeaway for me was what he mentioned a little bit about the problem of technology is that it neglects people. Yeah, neglects people using it. Job half done is as good as not done, right? So I'm going to invite you now to get onto our Slido, where I'm going to get you to do a little word cloud. If you could scan the QR code on your screens and as well as on this screen, please share with us one word that represents your learning takeaway, as well as a word that you probably was inspired by in Shi's presentation. Let's take a look. What do we have? Skills, priority, urgency. Thank you. High AI robotic quotient. What does that mean? Wow. Future skills, industry 5.0, transformation, automation. Okay, keep it coming. I'm going to present the next two speakers. Jonathan is the head of XR Center of Excellence at ST Engineering. He had worked in enterprise IT database systems, real-time networked systems, and embedded software engineering. He currently manages a team that develops VR, AR, and MR applications, providing solutions for motion tracking, immersive 3D visualization, and interactivity. He also leads the pre-sales organization of ST Engineering for DGX and Omniverse as a global solution provider to NVIDIA. Dr. Ronald Chung is the head of Specialist Solution Architect for ASEAN Public Sector in Amazon Web Services. He leads a team of solutions architects with specialization in security, telco, IoT, data analytics, AI, ML. Ronald holds a PhD in electrical and electronics engineering from the University of Hong Kong and has 20 years of both industry and academic experiences. Both Jonathan and Ronald will be sharing with us on digital twin and how it might be useful in this transformation of this sector. But as I read the topic, I asked myself whether we are going to, in this topic of digital twin, are we going to duplicate ourselves, duplicate solutions, so that it takes half the time to solve problems, or simply having another clone to do the work on our behalf while we go to play? Well, let us welcome the digital twins, Jonathan and Dr. Ronald Chung.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jonathan. I'm from ST Engineering. So today I'm going to go off script a bit and make my MC nervous. Okay, because just now on the Slido, right, I saw someone put up a comment that says, human supporting machine. Is it someone inside here? No, right? Right. I think this is a common topic these days because of ChatGPT, because of generative AI, because of machine learning. So a lot of us are fearful, maybe confused also that our job requirements, the job profiles may be changing because of these circumstances, right? No longer do we have to do all the work. If robots can do the work for us, then what are we left to do? So this is the perplexed statement that we have today for ourselves. The other thing I want to point out is you might realize that the topic for today's session is skills versus technology. I don't know if anybody asked, why is it versus? Why is it not skills and technology? Why is it not skills with technology? For the lack of a better preposition, why did we choose versus? So who is responsible for choosing this one? Please raise your hand. Actually, I know nobody will raise their hand now, okay? I suspect, okay, I never say this earlier because I don't want to get beaten up. But I think it's because that's the way people are thinking. Like today, there's this ineluctable force out there, technology, that we can't change. It's the circumstances of our time. It's happening in the background. There's very big companies pumping billions of dollars into developing new things that can displace us and our jobs. And we can only react to it. And in some cases, right, we actually have to go against it, hence versus. Today, I want to change that preposition, but I mean, I cannot change what's printed already. But let us see what we can do, right, to get back what we deserve as human capital. We want to augment ourselves. We want to be the person in control. Can I have my slides, please? Yeah. Okay. As Daryl has introduced, I'll be talking about digital twins. The clicker is there, right? Yeah. This one. Massive clicker. Maybe I'll just put up another interesting point. Just now, during Xu's talk, was another good example of skill versus technology. He's a very skilled speaker, by the way, but he was completely confounded by the clicker. Skill versus technology, right? Okay, I wish I press this right. Wow, the button is so big, look at that. I've got laser pointer, yeah. Okay, you might find this slide very familiar because it was just shown on Xu's slide, right? This was from his skills framework slide. It was attempting to map out what are the things that we can do today to train ourselves to go up the next level, okay, to put in very layman terms. And in fact, I have picked out what we can talk about today, right here on this floor, and are those that are in red. Okay, coincidentally, they are on the even numbers. It's not meant as a pattern, but coincidentally, it's as such. Maybe this is a sign of the times, right? And you might see that then digital twins is mentioned down here. Process modeling and simulation is mentioned down here. So today's subject is actually about how now we can go do digital twins using IoT integration so that then we can move closer or maybe into smart manufacturing the way we envision it. And then once you have done these things, you are already given the fundamentals to do things like immersive collaboration and training and sustainability, which is what my next speaker will talk about, okay? So I'm going to explain how this can work. You might remember just now she was talking about IoT 4.0. He's not talking about it as if it's new. He's talking about it because it is already here, right? There's a lot of data moving around on the machine floor that can be measured, okay? It can be measured, it can be tapped upon, and it can be connected, sent, and processed. What we want to do today is to take the availability of, confounded by technology. What we want to do today is to take the availability of all these data and connectivity options and then make use of that to put it into the production and operation process itself. It is too easy to say, I want to collect this data and look at it afterwards. But that becomes kind of like lagging indicator, right? You look at it afterwards, you can't really help it while it was happening. But what if you could? See, what if you could, and you could do it in accelerator on a real-time basis to go and improve your productivity of your running operations. So this is what we want to do. And in addition to that, we also want to give all our assets on the factory floor this digital thread, which means right now I can see my assets, right, in a form that is virtual, in a form that is digital, and then be able to tell how much, how long, and how well I can use it. And the time to do all this is now. So basically the slide here is to tell you, if you don't take advantage of the opportunity of doing it now, I think maybe already too late. This is not to scare you. Just something I want to say. Yeah. Okay. So, just now I was talking about digital twins on the left-hand side of the skills framework. On the right-hand side was process simulation. So what is process simulation really about? Why do we have to simulate a process if you're already running it already? Okay. So the whole point here is to be imagining a process that can give you better productivity and then be able to test it out virtually first before implementing it on the factory floor. Mainly because any kind of implementation as such is very onerous, very expensive, and also very risky. What if it doesn't work out, right? So the ability to do simulation itself helps you to get out of this expensive rut. Be able to just test and evaluate first virtually before you implement it. And how does a digital twin play in this process? If we have got all the IoT interfaces, smart interfaces connected, the data collected, and we know how your equipment is operating, this gives us a data set that we can now use as a simulation input. Okay, imagine right now I've created computation models of your machines and how they operate at a good level of abstraction. Now I take its operational data and I feed it into, right, live monitoring first, so I see how well it runs. But at the same time, I save it so that then it can feed back into a simulator. Okay, sorry. Now, but this is something I will cover later after you've seen the digital twin implementation part. But this is the idea anyway, okay? And now I'm going to talk about the asset, right? Remember just now I was saying, what if today we can also manage our assets on a digital basis? If I have collected so much data about equipment operation, I actually know how well it operates over time, correct? When we were talking about process simulation, I was thinking about it operating over space as an abstracted concept, how the machines work together. But now if I know how well a machine individually has been operating over time, then I'm starting to get information about its individual intrinsic behavior as well. The idea down here is then we will be able to model the equipment, these assets, right? Integrity, its performance, and therefore be able to use it now as part of the planning. Some machines that perform less well, maybe you should also start preparing them for maintenance, right? For predictive maintenance. So it gives us now a different perspective of how we look at things. In the past, we might want to look at the machines as the way they physically are. You want to go up to them and you want to see, okay, this is the status it reports. I keep a log of it, right? I remember how it was. And then just based on a log, I make an individual assessment of how well it's going to be, and I decide how to implement it for the future. But what if I don't want a human to do this task? What if now we leave the computer to do it, right? The computer automatically collects all the data. It builds up a picture of these things in data terms, in digital terms, right? Like over here. And then after that, it does its own prediction about how well, how long this equipment can last for you. So that then, in case it really is time to go and change the machine and you weren't paying attention, right? You can then be told, you can prepare for it, and your production doesn't have to cease because of this one slight oversight. At the asset level, okay, at the asset level. Okay, so this is the concept of what we call the asset digital twin. Digital twin at the asset level, and previously we were talking about it at the process level, okay? But then all this still just talking, right? So our objective here today is to show you the possibility now of getting started on IoT integration and digital twins. And I've had some talk actually with Rosalie down there from UTech, right? We looked at the problem statement together. And one of the challenges, I think, for a lot of people in your segment of the industry is that you can't afford to be putting out extraordinary costs to get started. You've already budgeted for the year. You already know how much you have to make on top of how much you have to pay, and you just suddenly can't decide to want to do something for the long term and put out a lot of money. I know I say very layman, but you guys know what I'm talking about, right? So you also want the lowest barrier of entry. You want to get started easily, can start small, use it first, and then grow it over time as your productivity gets better because you're starting to make more money, right? So how do we get you on this rolling start? Okay, so today, my solution for you lies in looking at AWS TwinMaker, okay? That's why Rona is here with me today, because we want to tell you about how you can build digital twin on the cloud. So I'm going to hand over the mic to Rona, and he's going to do the introduction to TwinMaker.
Thank you, Jonathan. So I'm not sure whether I'm able to use the clicker, but yeah, okay. Oh, this one is better? Wow, how amazed about the technology. All right, so IoT TwinMaker. So what is it? Essentially, it is a technology in AWS trying to help you to connect the physical world to the digital world. So what does it mean? You know, previously you have seen the chart in Jonathan. There are physical entities on the left-hand side and the digital entities on the right-hand side. We need to find the connection between the two, and therefore they are called the twin of each other. And from AWS angle, we are providing technologies to support human and to help you to realize the goods of the technologies to help you to achieve the outcome. So what is TwinMaker? So in a sense, this is the TwinMaker high-level understanding of this of the technology. So you can see that on the left-hand side, there are a whole bunch of data. So these data could be IoT-generated data from the sensors or from your equipment, or it could be from the camera, video data, or some other applications data from your existing applications. And there are, of course, a lot of event data as well, so that you can understand what is going on within the floor. Is there an alarm? Is there a trigger on the door, etc., etc. So what does IoT TwinMaker do is to, let's say, connect all these data points, collect all of them, and we have the technologies to connect to various data points like the IoT device, camera, etc. And I won't go through the details of it today. But on the other hand, once you collect the data, what is more important is about modeling. How could you model your physical entities? So someone would think that, well, we should go all the way with collecting all the data, well, which is happy for us, but we need to work backward from the customer intent and the objective that you want to achieve. So let me give you an example. Model, in a sense, is analogous to a profile. So think about Jonathan is a people, is a human, right? What would be the digital twin for him? Someone would say it could be a 3D model that encapsulates his body shape, clothing, is there any accessories, what kind of shoes he is wearing, and things like that. Is that really the case? Maybe it's good for visualization purpose. But think about what are the other equivalent digital twin? It could be a LinkedIn profile, right? So a LinkedIn profile captures all the attributes, metadata that represent Jonathan as a working professional in the industry. What are the others? Another example could be a Facebook page, right? But how could you represent Jonathan as a complete digital twin entities? For recruiter, maybe they just need to look at the LinkedIn, right? So that's the whole point of modeling. You have a lot of machineries on the floor. You have a lot of things to monitor. But does it mean that you need to inspect and micromanage every aspect of your machinery? So in Amazon, we need to work backward from the outcome. So we always look at the right-hand side. What are the things that you would like to achieve? It could be predictive monitoring or predictive maintenance, remote monitoring, production optimizations, and then we work backward from all these outcomes to determine what kind of sensors that you need to put on your machinery. Is there anything that you need to interact with the human? Do you need to track your staff locations within the manufacturing floor and things like that? So you need to capture the model, and once you have an accurate capture of the model without excessive amount of data, then you can also compose a scenery of your factory floor for visualization purpose. Again, it depends on the need. Do you need a photorealistic capture of your manufacturing plant? Does it work for what you intend to do? Maybe a scaled-down versions or a coarse version of your manufacturing plant will serve the purpose as well. So that's the way that we put all the technologies together to help you, and that's away all the heavy lifting for you to come up with all these solutions differently. So we combine them as an offering for you. And that is what AWS IoT TwinMaker objective to simplify the various different use cases. So here we have, well, an example diagram here. It could be a little bit complicated, like an architecture diagram, but the intent is not go through the technology details here. I just want to show you some of the example scenario, like you can inspect your premises and what is the things that is happening through various sensor data, like the dashboard here. It could be a Grafana dashboard showing temperatures of the readings, vibration status of your machinery, And you can have the time series data plotted here to understand the operating status. And you can also capture the data to understand and do a little bit more things on it, like data analytics, AI, ML for predictive maintenance purpose. So I understand that Jonathan have done, his team have actually used the IoT Twin Maker, and he spent a lot of time to understand how, and he's enthusiastic about how to make use of technologies to educate the workforce and to upskill the workforce. So I would like to ask Jonathan, what's your view on using IoT Twin Maker?
It's a bit hard for us right now because we're sharing one microphone. Yeah. But, you know, like when, it's really loud, when Ronald was pointing out the dashboard over there, and then earlier on he was talking about how we look backwards from the desired outcomes. So the dashboard is kind of like a desired outcome, right? For someone who can monitor what's happening on the factory floor. But for that reason, we would have to build up a model of how the factory operates through an entity component system, which is visualized down here as an example. And before that, we have to tie how all these entities and components behave to the data sources that drive them. So my team has gone through this process, and you know, like one of the best benefits I think about doing all this is that it was done entirely on the cloud. In fact, that was my previous slide title, right? Doing it on the cloud. Once we have your OPC UA data, and we can get an access to it somehow, right? Then we just have to put the connectors in, right? Depending on what kind of data they are, put them all into a cloud storage. I mean, that's the easy way to think about it. And then this will be constantly read live to go and produce the outcome that's on the dashboard. And so my short answer to the question is, right, I think we like the fact that we can just get started immediately. We don't have to put equipment together. With the data being there, we have the cloud infrastructure, we just get started, and then it's done, right? And I think this is something that we can get a lot of people to start as well through our training that we can provide together with AMTA. Which, yeah, okay?
Thank you, Jonathan. So, yeah, keep your mics on. I'm sure I have many more questions for you. So, performance monitoring. So you can see that, well, based on Twin Maker, it serves as a data fusion technologies to bring in all the data from different dimensions and to offer a modeling, construct for you to understand what's going on within your premises, and visualization technique to understand or to provide a situation awareness. And the dashboard, of course, would provide a data point as necessary to your staff and also your supervisor within the manufacturing plant. But I want to touch a bit more about the visualizations. So visualization, like what I've said, is it necessary to have 3D photorealistic kind of digital twin to capture the current situation? The answer is not quite, especially for the manufacturing plant. There are a lot of immovable entities. It's just a machine sitting on the floor. So most of the time, you just need a simple 3D modeling for visualization purpose, like the diagram shown on here. But on the other hand, you can also bring in actual video so that the operator can have it easy understanding of what's going on by human interpretation. So I want to echo to Jonathan's comments earlier on. Skills, human, technologies. Are they always versus each other? No. It should be complementing each other. We make use of technologies to provide automations and to provide faster decision-making for humans so that they can improve productivity. So back to the digital twin, visualization is one thing. It could be simple, but you can always bring in video to understand the current situation. But more importantly, because you have a 3D environment here, you need to have a certain way to quickly pop up the corresponding video. And that's how the visualization piece can come into the play so that you can record the video in a very fast and intuitive manner. It's all about intuitiveness. you can easily collect the data. It could be all represented in an Excel spreadsheet, right? But does it help you anywhere? It doesn't help you anywhere. You can have a mapping of a reading to a machine with an asset code, but it is not intuitive to locate that particular machinery. But a 3D visualizations, however simple or however complex is it, the intent is to provide this kind of intuitiveness in locating the fault or the problem locations. So machine to cloud connectivity, again, I'm not going through all the details here. It is very complex, but I just want to highlight that all the machinery data, you can make use of the technologies available from TwinMaker connectors with a lot of, well, on-premises and edge technologies from AWS. You can connect them all together and feed it into the cloud environment. And I want to emphasize one thing, and it echoes to Jonathan's comments earlier on. Making use of cloud can help you to well, cut down the initial investment in terms of infrastructure or in terms of IT infrastructure. And you can always start small and start with your outcome. And Jonathan and me would be more than happy to help you to provide the necessary training. So simulation piece, so this is actually put up by Jonathan, and I'm sure he has a good point of view on how to make use of the simulation. So I will hand back the floor to Jonathan.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ronald. Okay, you can clap later. Yeah, so if all of you can imagine right now that you've already done this digital twin, you have all your IoT devices connected, and now you can see the dashboard, right? Now the question will be, how are you going to do? How are you? Can I be heard? How are you going to test? How are you going to test what happens when a machine is not working? What happens if you have fewer than what you planned for? So the purpose now is using this model that you've already built up. You can replace out the input data sources from what is actually live into something that you choose instead. You generate a scenario, and now you test your model. And with that, then you know how well your manufacturing operations are going to handle circumstances. Earlier on, we were talking about circumstances, right? So this is something that we can do as an advanced course after you've gone through the basic course of setting up the digital twin. And then remember earlier on, I was talking about process optimization through process simulation. So that's where we are now, right? Use a scenario generator, try different scenarios, given that the model is in place, formed by data, and then know how well your operations are going to function given circumstances. Then you choose the one that's going to be optimal. You choose your machine set, you choose your operations layout, you choose how your data is going to be fed in. And then after that, choose the one that works best for you. All this entirely done using digital twin, done before you even touch the actual machine itself, right? And that's the idea, okay? I am already being rushed for time, so I have to cover the rest very quickly. Earlier on, when we looked at the skills framework, we talked about training as well. And the point down here is, given all these things that have come together digitally, why just stop there? We'll take the same data again and return it into a planning tool that can be used to go and train your operations manager. Right? Scenario generation, test and evaluation. Why not now see how well you can react to incidences that are also generated by simulation? And of course, we can't forget about sustainability, because that's what the next speaker will be talking about. Once we have all those data in, that doesn't also stop there, right? We can also now have data that is about how much power you're consuming, for example. And this now can be part of that process optimization that goes after now the best power performance profile for your manufacturing operations. And then for that, then you can go and apply for grants to help you on your course, which I'm going to leave the next speaker to talk to you about, okay? All right, thank you very much for today.
Thank you very much. Jonathan, yeah, I just remembered. Well, okay, I'm going to go very quickly to the next Slido. Can you just put it onto Slido, please? Please scan the QR code, put in your one word as I introduce to you our next speaker. Don't toggle yet, just let the Slido go, yeah? Sulin is a senior research engineer in the Sustainability and Life Cycle Management Division at A-Star SimTech. This is very important, yeah? So it helps you to understand who is Sulin and what is Sulin going to talk about, yeah? She leads the development of Green Compass, a sustainability assessment and road mapping tool aimed to guide companies in their sustainability improvement journey. She is a part of Sustainability Informatics and Strategy Group, which looks at quantifying sustainability performance and exploring how business models can support to decarbonize their operations and recirculate resources within the economy. She will be sharing with us on the topic of sustainability transformation through Green Compass. And I wonder if companies are able to be sustainable if taking on an additional sustainability agenda in its business. And what is a good entry point for these companies to do so more sustainably? Let us welcome Ms. Goh Sulin.
Thanks. Hello. Hello, hello. Can you all hear me? Am I coming through the speakers? All right, yeah. Can't really hear myself. Thanks, Dara, for the very nice introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Sulin. It was very interesting to hear the previous speakers share more about advanced manufacturing and digital twins. It does sound like we are ready for that future. So now I'm going to talk a bit about sustainability, which ensures that we do have a future world to live in. All right, so I'm going to talk about sustainability transformation through Green Compass. And this is a joint collaboration between SimTech A-Star, JTC, and TÜV. So first off, is environmental sustainability important for businesses? Is it important for your business? I see some people nodding, all right. I can't answer on your behalf, but what I can do is share with you what some other companies are saying. So in a survey by MIT and BCG, they found that 90% of companies consider a sustainability strategy to be important in remaining competitive. But only 60% of them have a sustainability strategy, and worse still, only 25% of them have an actual business case for sustainability. So maybe just do a quick poll before I go on. How did you get here today? Did any of you use the app Google Maps? Yeah, Google Maps. It's probably not very easy to find this place. So I myself also use Google Maps to get here today. So if you were like me, you probably opened up the app, you had your current location loaded up, and then you put in the destination. Maybe you put in some parameters as well. Maybe you want to avoid tolls or avoid highways. And then you click search, and then it gives you this, right? A couple of routes with some information about the route. So I would think for most of us here in the audience, you can probably remember the time before there were smartphones and there were apps like that to help us to find our way, right? You have to either, take out the street directory and find out, which road, which building you're going to, or, you just have to figure out your way. And sometimes when you get lost, it can be really frustrating, right? So similarly, in sustainability, it can be very frustrating if you don't know how to, if you don't know where you are, and if you don't know how to get there, right? So this is where Green Compass comes in. Green Compass is an environmental sustainability and assessment and strategic road mapping tool. Green Compass is unique in its approach because it doesn't just tell you where you are right now, it also tells you where you need to go, hence its name. So Green Compass is comprehensive and holistic in its approach in that it covers operations, product life cycle, supply network, and organization. And it covers your carbon, energy, water, and material and waste footprint. So companies can utilize the tool through our 16-hour Green Compass course, which is co-delivered by TÜV and SimTech. And through this comprehensive and structured approach of learn, assess, prioritize, and plan, we can then plug the individual's skills gap, at the same time helping the companies understand where they are right now in their sustainability journey and what to work on for improvement. So first, we needed to get everyone on the same page. So we start off with learn, right? Participants to the course will then first learn about environmental sustainability trends, methodologies, relevant standards, and regulations. I'm very happy also that we have ex-Green Compass student in the room here today. So with that first step of learn, everyone gets on the same page first. Then we move on to assess, where the company has to answer a series of questions based on their current status, their current affairs. And based on those responses, we then generate their environmental sustainability maturity level results. From there, we then prioritize a few key domains for improvement. As I'm sure all of us face this issue, resources are limited, your time is limited, which is why we prioritize 5 key areas for strategic improvement. Next, we then move on to plan, where participants will then co-create a high-level action plan for sustainability improvement. And the whole course ends off with a presentation to the upper management, where then the participants can request for the relevant resources that they may need. Some of the key benefits of Green Compass, you can potentially reduce business costs by learning how to improve resource efficiency. You can future-proof your operations against supply chain or resource shocks. And you can also prepare for sustainability transformation through an increased awareness of the key improvement areas and a strategic roadmap for immediate implementation. So I want to talk a bit about the scope of Green Compass as well, which is represented by this green table over here. You can see that it is very comprehensive and holistic in that it covers a lot of different topics in environmental sustainability. So we start from the top here. We see green organization and green business as the 2 main building blocks of Green Compass. And how to read this table will then move downwards. You'll see the 5 dimensions: talent readiness, structure and management under green organization, operations, supply network, and product lifecycle under green business. So then under talent readiness management, we see leadership competency and workforce learning and development. And I wanted to spend a bit of time talking a bit more about this as well. Oops, not to the next slide yet. So for leadership competency, surveys have actually shown that, studies have shown that for companies with leaders who are very familiar with sustainability concepts and the importance of environmental sustainability, can better lead the company in driving these changes that are required for sustainability transformation. So which is why it's very important in Green Compass that the upper management of the organization, of the company, is aware and is very familiar with these sustainability concepts. And when we talk about workforce learning and development, this refers to when an organization allows the staff to be trained up in the relevant environmental sustainability topics. And could also mean those more specialized skills, for example, Singapore Certified Energy Manager or even Water Efficiency Manager skills. So this dimension, talent readiness management, basically ensures that the organization has the relevant human capital to ensure that sustainability transformation can take place. All right. So moving on to structure and management, we see strategy and governance, policy and compliance, as well as stakeholder engagement. And in operations, supply network, and product lifecycle, we see carbon, energy, water, and material domains. So you see that they appear in operations, supply network, and product lifecycle. And these are all very important resources, especially in Singapore's context. So about the Learn, Assess, Prioritize, Plan model that we have designed into this course with support from AMTA. We've found that companies found it very useful and engaging during the course. During the plan step of this course, it's very engaging. The participants are brainstorming, sharing of ideas among these participants that have come together for the course. And we recommend organizations to send participants from various departments in the company, as well as to have a mix of seniority levels, because this is really important for sustainability transformation. You really need buy-in from all levels as well as all departments in the company for it to work. So we've received a lot of good feedback from companies who have gone through the course, saying that, hey, actually through this course, they learn not just about sustainability, but also about their own organization, because they hear from these colleagues that they may not usually talk to. So maybe not just me saying that, but you can also see from these testimonials from companies that have already gone through Green Compass, that they find the assessment results to be comprehensive, and they also use the roadmap to then scale up their environmental sustainability transformation. They are also very thankful for the step-by-step consultative approach, which then help them to identify, assess, and prioritize key areas for improvement. Oops. That slide doesn't want to appear. Okay. So these are the companies that have already used Green Compass for their sustainability improvement. As you can see, it's a good mix of MNCs, SMEs, as well as some IHLs as well. And we also see a couple of organizations here which have helped us in the expert review of Green Compass when we first launched it a little over a year ago. So a big thank you to these companies who have helped Green Compass become where it is right now. Oops, too many slides. Yes, all right. So thank you very much. Please take down this email address if you would like to find out more about Green Compass. My colleague Lai Sing, who unfortunately was not able to be here with us today. Or you could scan this QR code that will bring you straight to our course webpage. I'll also be here after the event. I'm happy to connect with any of you. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sulin. So as we are preparing for the next panel discussion, which is the next activity, can I just bring you to the Slido once again with your one word. Please share with us what you have learned from Sulin or how you have been inspired. Just using one word, please. Live show. Those of you as well online, if you have questions, please go ahead and put them onto Slido as well. On your top of your screen, there should be a Q&A button. Click on that, put in your questions. If you would like to vote for it in particular, please go ahead and vote for your favorite questions so that they might be brought onto the top. Let's see what we have. Energy saving, learning curve, sustainability, competitive, oh wow, that's a big word, sustainability. I actually have a question for the twins itself. Twins. Jonathan. Yeah, well, no, not yet, relax. I was about to ask you just now because I wanted to ask. So if anything that can be tracked can be modeled, is that true? It's very interesting. Yeah, anything that can be tracked can be modeled or twinned. Well, not yet, don't worry. Okay, so we'll bring that in a short while. Promising. Okay, let me now invite the panelists once again on stage. Can we switch? As we get into the first discussions. Dr. Liu?
Right now, right?
Yes, please. Thank you.
I think you twins should sit together.
Okay, before we begin, let's give the people who set up these things within like 30 seconds a round of applause. They could probably work for Formula 1. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, panelists. It's been really exciting and really interesting what you have presented to us. And it really brings up a lot of curiosity in terms of what we're expecting, or do we have no choice? I would like to start. Wait. Jonathan, very excited. Okay, I have the first question first for Dr. Liu because he came first. So I'll ask Dr. Liu the first question as we kick off this panel discussion. Well, Dr. Liu, given that manufacturing operations are probably at its more or less maximum efficiency at this point in time, how should organizations consider commencing this journey of developing their capabilities in advanced manufacturing technologies?
Wow, that's a very good question. I think it should start with the change of the mindset. So I have a different understanding of the maximum, efficiency you mentioned about. To me, this is more like a self-imposed limit that we should actually break away from. I believe once the companies understand the possibilities, I really appreciate what I 4.0 can bring about. It's just like a caterpillar breaking away from the cocoon when it is like it have a new world to explore. So I remember once I was consulting for a Japanese company, a Japanese manufacturer to be specific, a little bit concerned about losing their competitive edge. And they all know that for Japanese companies, they value all their master craftsmanship. And they mentioned to me that it takes about 5, 10, sometimes even 20 years to actually train a master craftsman. But in the end, it becomes a constraint to them because they cannot really scale up. This is a bottleneck in there. And they also find that if the master craftsman retires, it's even more serious problem. So during the chatting, I was actually mentioning, have you think about making use of I 4.0, in particular the AR, VR technology? Do you actually consider to really digitize the capabilities of your master craftsman? Or have you ever considered really embedding such, embody such craftsmanship into an autonomous robot? So in that case, you are going to have more than one, but 5, 10, tens, hundred master craftsmen. And your really that's human master craftsman can probably going on to create something even more exciting. In this way, it is a new paradigm you can actually scale up. So that's why I think it should always start with the mindset. After the management can help the whole company, the whole organization to understand the capability and the benefits of I 4.0, embrace it, and then set up a team, assemble a team to actually help with the implementation, plan out, and then implement it out. But of course, we are always here to help.
Thank you, Dr. Liu. I know Jonathan's very ready for this. Well, he mentioned quite a bit about duplicating people, duplicating the master, creating 200 over masters. Twinning.
Testing. There's a confusion of concepts, obviously. But when he talked about rethinking the definition of craftsmanship, I thought it was very apt too, because we are in the era of precision manufacturing too, right? Additive manufacturing. There's a lot of things today that, because of additive manufacturing, you can produce in a factory that you thought you couldn't be done before. It had to be done by hand, somewhere by a person. And this really means right now we shouldn't go against this tide. I feel that we should leverage upon it. Okay? I think this is a separate concept because in trying to solve the problem of productivity by digitalization, you have to look at the tools now that you give the person that has his job transformed, right? So the control over the machines is what you need now. Whereas previously you worked on the material directly, you now have the machine as an interface to work with the material. And you really want to be even better than you were at before. That's how you level up. Otherwise, then your human capital is not really leveling up. And I guess this is exactly the challenge that AMTA has to solve for everybody, right? Putting a skills framework right now that ensures that your skill set is relevant to the tools that you have today to work on the materials, even if the materials haven't changed, right? Yeah. But to answer your question, okay, then that's exactly where the digital twin part comes in, right? So how are you going to monitor and control these machines and amplify this effect that you have as the human controller is to bring you up even more from previously just level up 1, now it's level up 2, right? Now you can do multi-machine connectivity management, which was the slide that Ronald covered very briefly. So now you are one master craftsman controlling multiple machines, producing multiple or whatever products it was. That's the idea. Yeah.
Thank you. Hold on, Dr. Liu. I know you want to say something as well. I just want to ask you a question. Where does this start in an organization? Who should be the person to go to? The production head, the HR person, the leader, the CEO. Who should be the first person that takes this initiative to jump on board?
Wow, that's a challenging question, I have to say. Well, at AMTA, we believe more on the power of teams rather than individual heroism, to that sense. Because I think I always hear about cases actually where individual learners actually when they go through the training and they go back to the organization, sometimes they start to feel a little bit lonely. They feel a little bit sort of clueless when their knowledge, when their expertise they learn and the direction they want to go is not really aligned with what the company wants to do. That's why at AMTA we always advocate company-oriented and implementation-oriented training. By company-oriented, what I mean is the company must identify its direction and its roadmap. And by implementation focused, what I mean is that the people get involved in this training must be part of the project. Must be the implementation team. It's actually going to be a multi-function team. It should encompass both from the management to the engineers, experts, all the way down to the operation team. That's why we say when we are analyzing the training needs of the company, we actually do a holistic analysis. We understand different people have different roles and they have different skills. So we must actually analyze what are the specific skills gaps they have. And then we start to contextualize the training towards the company. Well, we think that there is no, I would say there is an ideal profile that we have to train, but we must have an ideal course for everyone. We believe everyone can be trained and everyone should be trained.
Thank you. Sulin, what's your experience on this?
If I may add on to that. Hello. I think in a similar vein, I think that's also why Green Compass is, for the course, is also designed in this way. We wanted, it is actually not open to individuals. You have to form a group within the company to attend. And we do encourage companies to send as many participants as possible from different departments, different seniority levels, so that when they go back, they can bring this back to their own departments as well. And this transformation can then take place at all the different levels and all the different departments. Yeah.
I have the next question from on screen, for the both of you actually. How long does it take to train one staff to be fully competent in his or her role to a level of proficiency where he or she can perform on the job independently? We could start with you.
Okay, since I got the mic, but I think this question, I have to say, we need a clearer definition. That's why I say we need to know where the person is at and what is the proficiency you want this person to get. For example, let's say we have, probably this I can share is what we are helping the other company. When they start to say, I want to understand about how we can implement AMRs. So I need someone to actually implement this project. But that's the question. They didn't specify what they need. They didn't specify what they want to achieve. That's why AMTA comes in. We understand they have a team of engineers and technicians. For the engineers, they need to design exactly the functionality of the AMRs. But for the technicians, they only need to know how to maintain the AMRs. So that's the difference. We need to know where they want to achieve. Then we understand where they are starting from. For the technicians, they have basically no knowledge of AMR. So when there's AMR, you say, advanced material research? No. It's autonomous mobile robot. So that's why we started with the fundamental training, the components and how we assemble them, how we maintain them. For this case, I would say from the training towards the hands-on mentoring, it took about, let's say, 3 to 6 months, because it always starts, for AMTAs otherwise, it always starts with training. We get the knowledge, and then we will follow up with a mentoring, like hands-on support, hand-holding them until they can actually fly on their own. Yeah, this entire process, I would say, takes about 3 to 6 months.
Sulin, the topic of Green Compass. You have a student here, right? A former student here that has completed. How long does it take?
So the Green Compass course itself is 16 hours long. It's meant to be a very succinct course because we also understand that for some of the smaller companies, for SMEs, it is a big ask for them to set aside that many people and that many hours to go for the course. So we design the course in a way that they are equipped with those skills so then they can build on that thereafter as well. Yeah.
So importantly, I think the question was, how long does it take for one to be fully proficient and to be able to apply, especially if a company is embarking for the very first time in sustainability and some of these initiatives?
Sure. I think to echo Shi's sentiment, I think it really depends. It depends on where this person is starting from and where they aspire to get to. If you are going to be someone who is very specialized, like what I mentioned, if you were going to be a Singapore certified energy manager, which equips you with the skills to improve the energy efficiency of your facilities, then of course it may take longer. But if you just need the basic information about the environmental sustainability concepts, then of course it may be a lot faster. Yeah.
I must add on a little bit. Maybe the 3 and 6 months are a bit scary, but what I mean is the entire journey. It doesn't mean that it's 3 months intensive training, you must go to school every day. What I mean is the training itself, let's say the training program, it could span from 16 hours to 40 hours per program. But after that, there is going to be a kind of interactive session. When you have an issue, you bring it back, you go to the work, try to implement it. Of course, you are going to run into problems, and that's why you come to your lecturer, who is going to mentor you. And this process, back and forth, helping to implement the project, this is what I call learning through the implementation-based training. That takes about that long. That is not the exact contact hours, so don't be scared.
So I have one question that's for Sulin, and I think it's in relation to sustainability. We saw a list of about 24 companies on screen a while ago. Could you share with us briefly on the Green Compass journey for some of these companies and what it meant for them in terms of their ROIs and how were they able to measure them?
For the companies that we've seen come to Green Compass so far, it's really interesting to see actually, because when you're doing initial interactions, they really don't know what sustainability is. It's really a black box to them. But after the Green Compass course, they tell us that, hey, actually it's not that chim a topic, right? It's not that complicated. You can look at it in a very structured way, and they have the confidence to then bring that back to the company, and as well as the roadmap that they have come up with during the course to implement that as well. So as an example, True Marine, one of the companies that have gone through the course with us, they actually went back, set up a whole environmental sustainability council at the highest level of the company that is overseen by the board of directors. And they also look at how they can quantify the sustainability impact of their services and inform their customers of this sustainability impact. So that has been really heartening to see.
Tell us a little bit more about this quantifying of these services.
Sure. Yeah, so True Marine, they are a maintenance, repair, overhaul services company for the marine industry. And they basically sent more staff back to Simtech, where we also have this other sustainability course, which is the life cycle assessment course, to then understand what is the carbon footprint of their services, right? If you think about it, they are in maintenance and repair. So fundamentally speaking, from a sustainability point of view, it makes more sense to repair than to buy new. And going through the Green Compass course helped the upper management realize that, yes, this is actually a good thing for the company, right? Because they are helping their customers be more green in that, you can do the repairs, you can even predict when you might need to do the repairs before it's even required. And that is then compared to buying new or retrofitting it with a completely new component. So that is where that quantified portion comes in. Yeah.
Someone actually asked this question: what realistic cost is it to start this journey?
You mean in sustainability? Yes. I feel like I'm hogging the mic from the panelists, so I shall just keep it short. I think it varies a lot from company to company, and I would say do not be intimidated by cost yet. There are a lot of things that you can actually do at minimal cost first, as a first step, right? I think one of the things about Green Compass is also we encourage companies to think of some baby steps that they can start doing. For example, supply network management. How do you encourage your suppliers to go green, to become more resource efficient? That's always one thing that really scares companies, and they get like, oh my God, it's really difficult to do. So we always encourage them, what is some baby steps that you can do? Maybe for companies, they don't even know who their suppliers are, right? So maybe then the first step is to, okay, map out your suppliers. Who are the biggest ones that you procure from by value, by volume, etc. That will, what causes that? That would be your man hours to invest into this, right? And then from there, then maybe you want to, after doing that for some time, then you may want to do even more, right? You might want to start engaging with your suppliers. Maybe start asking them also, have you had other customers ask you for environmental performance indicators, environmental performance data? And then from there, build that relationship with the supplier to then do more and to push them to do more. So I would say, yes, there are some initiatives that you have to implement, that you may want to implement that may cost a lot, but there are also things that you can do for quite minimal costs. And for those that requires more costs, there are actually a lot of grants available for companies. Yes.
Maybe I'll just add on a little bit on that. So in terms of sustainability, you want to cut the carbon footprint, and people tend to associate it with cost because you need to do something additional in order to achieve sustainability. But essentially, there are many ways around it. So let's say if you have some IT infrastructure that are running on premises, it consumes electricity that might not be power efficient or in terms of power consumption. So essentially, by migrating some of the workloads to cloud, and then you retire your IT infrastructure, it can help you to save costs because, essentially the IT infrastructure is being maintained in cloud, and in AWS case, we take care of the infrastructure. So you can help save costs in maintaining those IT infrastructure. It is pay-per-use model. We have the sustainability objective as well in AWS. So we have carbon footprint calculator, for all the workloads running in cloud as well. So it helps to simplify some of the things that you would like to achieve.
Yes, of course, and thanks for reminding me on a very important point as well, in that if you are implementing initiatives to improve your resource efficiency, improve your energy efficiency, water efficiency, naturally you'll see cost savings as well because you don't have to pay as much for them.
So this is back to the twins again. The same question, not the same question, different question. How can digital twins and simulation help me achieve sustainability goals? Jonathan.
Test. Okay, it looks like we cannot escape talking about sustainability. But an easy way for a lot of us as operations managers to think about it really is in accounting, right? How do we account for our consumption? How do we account for our environmental impact? And all this has to be in numbers. Let's just face it, right? When it comes to accounting, it has to be in numerical form. It has to be computable, calculable. And therefore, the source of it has to be data. So, in fact, I was just talking to Ron about this. By the time we have done enough connectors to your equipment, right, to figure out how they're operating, even if we don't get data, direct data about how much power they're consuming, it can be calculated, it can be inferred. And if there's no better means to do so, actually that's your data source already. Now imagine if that's already done, and you're actually using it for monitoring purposes, then just to use it for reporting purposes now is a very, very small leap. Very, very small leap, right? And then you use those numbers that you generate for reporting purposes now for your planning purposes too. Do think, okay, then how am I going to lower this number? And of course, if you're the operations manager, you don't even have to think about lowering the number for the purpose of sustainability. You're lowering it for costs, to pay less for it to begin with, right? But at the same time, you're also then scoring on sustainability. So I know this is kind of like a long answer, but the short answer really is, right, well, just get the data which is already there, compute, and then use it for accounting. Really, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you, Jonathan. Well, I have this question for MTA. Well, beyond formal training and learning projects, what are the other methods that MTA is looking at to accelerate upskilling?
Well, beyond formal training, what you mean was probably the classroom training. Yes. And the other areas we are looking at, yes, projects, but more importantly is actually how we can enhance the on-job training of the corporate. Because now we are seeing, actually it's an initiative we're actually working with the union. We are seeing a lot of Singaporeans, mid-career, blue-collar workers. They are facing a lot of challenges in terms of transit their career, especially when we are seeing a lot of operations being automated, and they are facing the difficulties. And a lot of them are actually not really have the qualification to move up to a higher role. That's why we are actually trying to establish on-job trainings that can actually qualify them to benchmarks like NITEC or even at diploma levels. So this is actually an initiative with both the union and the companies, and we are trying to establish a framework within the company. They can actually adopt it to actually benchmark it against the existing qualifications, and then MTA can actually work with the training providers and also help to train the trainer, train the internal trainer of the companies to fulfill these training needs. That is a few of the initiatives MTA is looking at.
So I'm hearing a bit of a whole transformation of their HR development strategy. Well, I have this question on how to make adaptation of I 4.0 more practical for regulated industries like medtech and pharma.
Okay, so it's also addressed to MTA, since we are really, we are really on a roll. Yeah, this is a really tricky answer because we all know these areas are really highly regulated. Especially like the pharma and food tech as well, because all the people, in this profession needs to be certified. But I think this is actually really an area that I 4.0 is good at, because once the procedure is established, the machine or the algorithm or the robots, they rarely make mistakes like people. They will not forget the keys in the room and lock the door. That is something actually we are actually probably be able to help. So in terms of helping the companies to actually be proficient in employing all these new tools to facilitate, to actually help their workforce to carry out their duties. Yeah, that is my thoughts. Probably I think the twins is...
Can you read the question one more time?
Hold on.
No, I wanted to know what the underlying intent was. This person to bring it up while we are at this forum about advanced manufacturing. I suspect it might be related.
Where was that question again? Archived. Sorry, it's...
Yeah, okay, time's up, Darren. Time's up.
Sorry, it's something... here we go. How do we make adaptation of I 4.0 more practical for more regulated industries?
Adaptation of... Okay. Okay, this one I really have to think very hard, so I don't have an answer also. But okay, maybe a side comment to what she was talking about, right? I think this is the marvelous things where if you expand your skill set horizontally, you actually increase your capital in more ways than you originally thought. Human capital, this is our theme for today, isn't it? So if you're going to become a robot operator, okay, let's just take pharmacy as a use case, for example, right? Talk about pills picking, which actually there is such operation going on now. We don't think about it as advanced manufacturing, but the robot could have easily been a picker for something else on an advanced manufacturing operations floor. Agreed? But if you know how to program this robot, and hopefully you're monitoring it through a digital twin, yeah, then actually it will make it very easy for you to also do your job now in pharmacy, right? Copil speaking. So I think this is a matter of now looking at our skill sets being used in more ways than one. But first of all, you must get the skills, right? Thanks.
I think in terms of how to make it more practical. So earlier on, AMTA proposed this framework for exposure assessment and implementation. Since the company has already asked about how we can make it practical, that means they must be keen on iPhone majority. So the first step, they already passed. So the second step will be really how to, assess what are the needs and what are the gaps. And that is the area I believe the company should look at. Once they have a dashboard plan, then we can then implement the training. I think there is a lot we can talk about this, but I think due to time constraints, maybe it would be good if we can actually get to know this audience, and we can all come in together to actually help to map out this journey. And that way, we can make it more practical for you, because each company has their individual needs.
Thank you very much, Dr. Liu. Well, those of you who are still online and in this hall, feel free to put in additional questions if you have on Slido. The QR code is on the top right-hand corner of your screen. Those of you who still have questions, feel free to put them up. I'm going to post the next question to the digital twins. Both of them, yeah? So tell us a little bit more about the adoption of this whole digital twin and how, using an example of a company, how did you approach them and how did they adopt and used and started to measure? Tell us a little bit more.
Digital twin, we do have some customers leveraging digital twin technologies like Carrier, actually the cold chain solutions. So they manufacture equipment to make sure that the cold chains facilities or the machinery need to operate on a certain level of satisfactory requirement. So essentially, it's just the blueprint. It's like get the sensors, IoT, monitor the status, using the digital twin to understand what went wrong, and then to troubleshoot the problems and issues. So this is one particular customer, and we have other customers like Invista, who are a chemical manufacturing company that provide the chemical ingredients for various industry. The same, they use the IoT technologies to monitor the equipment status to make sure that the yield rate is satisfactory and to make sure that the uptime of the equipment, or even use the predictive maintenance to cut down or to reduce the downtime of the equipment to ensure productivity. And it also related to, and I also want to address some of the questions earlier on, like regulated industry, right? So how can you make use of this technology? Think about, you need to model everything, because let's say, for example, for medicine industry, you need to make sure that during the manufacturing, the contamination of the equipment has to be within certain level, right? Once the medicine is being produced, you need to ensure that it is being stored in a within range temperature, right? So, well, previously, you need to ask your staff to check the equipment. Are these working properly? Check the contamination level and things like that. We are not taking out people out of the equation. Well, technologies is meant to provide assistance and to streamline those operations. So by deploying sensors, monitoring the temperature, contamination level, then you provide a data point. Let's say these data points are captured once every minute, once every 5 seconds, depending on the requirements of the regulated industry, right? So from there, you can streamline all this to achieve that goal.
To supplement the answer, because we have to put it in context of the reason we're here today, how we're going to approach it for customers, right, in the advanced manufacturing, really is co-development. I think you don't have, we don't have that luxury actually to take people out of their jobs, to go and learn how to do these things as programmers, right? Which is where I think my team will come in and solve that problem for you, because we are engineers. So we'll build a part that you eventually get to use, but you'll see us build it so you know how it's done. And then in the time that we're building it, we also learn about your operations, so we help you decide the priority problems to be solved. A very easy example, since we're talking about sustainability, is just power metering. Like figuring how much power your equipment is using based on the loads that are given so that we can do a performance profile for it. It could be as simple as just putting in a power meter, an IoT power meter, right? We tap on the data, we send it to the cloud, we monitor from there, and then we pass it to you. So then whoever right now has to do the power monitoring uses it, but because he knows the process in which it was built, he sees now the possibility of him extending this solution to something bigger, maybe more power meters. But then he can always just think about, maybe just look at other things to measure as well, right? Probably the hardest thing that I feel you will encounter in trying to get the data is for things that simply don't put out data to begin with, and therefore you cannot tell. But even that, maybe we have a solution, okay, which is in video analytics. So my kind of like very oblique answer to your question, right, is our approach to solving all these problems for customers is going to be looking at what data you can collect for the outcomes that you desire, and we go and plug the gaps along the way, even with things like video analytics if need be. That's our approach, yeah?
Thank you, Jonathan. Well, we have this one question in relation to acceleration of I 4.0. It's always, yeah, I 4.0. So it's talking about, with the acceleration of I 4.0 and then the concerns about job availability, especially for Gen X, how is this going to help in this case? So I'm guessing Gen X and hold this transformation at this kind of speed, how is this going to work out? Yeah, Generation X, not X-Men. It's I think there's many definitions of Generation X, but I would imagine Generation X would be of a certain age. Yeah.
I think this is also why I was talking about the first step for every organization to transform, or conducting the I 4.0 transformation should always start with the mindset. Because people tend to have fears. I mean, especially if they watch too much, sci-fi and machines and humans getting into conflicts. But what we are actually looking at here is like the machines or the robots or the technologies is actually here to help us. We are not, by adopting I 4.0, it's not like, say, we are giving away our jobs, but we can actually make our jobs more efficient. There is always going to be a transition period where you need to acquire new skills, but that is a necessity because, as the minister always, say, we need to have really the lifelong learning to actually keep transforming our workforce through this workforce upskilling. So once the persons really have this understanding that with the I 4.0, I'm going to do my work more efficiently, I can generate more returns or more outputs for the company. That means my role or my job will be more valuable. And this entails learning new I 4.0 skills. For example, we always have this a few technicians, and their previous job is really to repair the machines. But now, after monitor the process, troubleshoot, but after they really learn about I 4.0, their job could be more efficient because they don't need to walk down the corridor, walk down the lines of machines to actually get to know their status, but they can actually sit in front of his coffee, checking, oh, machine number 3 is having a problem. And they got a history, and they may even be able to prompt him with possible solutions. He can be there, more confident, more informed, solve the problem in 5 minutes rather than sitting there for a whole day. And when the machine or the production line is more, efficient, his bonus, I believe, could be much better, isn't it? That's why I see.
Wait. Yeah, actually, I totally agree because every job has some kind of job outcomes desired, right? Even for a mechanic. So the outcome will be a repaired machine. It's not the repair process itself. I always tell my guys that also. I don't want you to be doing, I want it to be done, right? So a mechanic who can see his job is having a repaired machine will see the tools that lead to that outcome as necessary, right? And it's very close to my heart because just now when you say Gen X, I'm Gen X, right? So I mean, I think about all the things I've learned across my, my lifetime. Even the AWS TweetMaker, I just recently learned too. I also put myself through that learning process so that I know how it works, so that then my team can do it, so that I can do it for my customers, for you, right? I don't think it's hard. I think it's a matter of seeing what your job requires and then a willingness to go after it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I think in this topic of acquiring skill sets and probably near, I wouldn't say instant gratification, but somehow rather the proximity to gratification is a bit easier. I think the topic of sustainability itself is something different. Yeah, it's not something that you can get some pay raise in an instant. You don't get the results quite instantly. Tell us about how do you overcome this with your clients in terms of introducing sustainability and some of these transformation.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's not linked to your bonuses. I mean, in Green Compass, under the one of the domains, we actually do look at whether or not sustainability performance is linked to employees' KPIs and things like that. So I think it really depends on whether the organization embeds sustainability in its core, in its how it operates. Yeah.
Any example of how one's leadership wasn't so open to the notion of sustainability and how you overcame that?
In terms of the companies that we've seen so far, of course not. I think perhaps some leaders that we do observe are maybe a bit more cautious. They do have similar concerns to some of the previous questions we've looked at, where they think about, it's expensive, it's something extra to do. But I think there has been a bit of a tipping point for sustainability in the past 1 to 2 years. It's become a lot more so-called mainstream. People kind of recognize it as something that is inevitable and they have to do at some point, which is good because it is. And I think the sooner these leaders realize that, the sooner they start making changes in the organization, the sooner they can be more and more competitive. I think we do see a lot of companies where they may not be ready to ask their suppliers to act, but their customers are already asking them to act, and with quite strict requirements as well. And especially if your customer is a very large company and you are a lot of your business comes from this one large company, if they ask you to change, I think you'll probably listen, yes.
I'm going to ask the last question to all of you right now in relation to the individual learners who might be listening and what this means for me as an individual and a person who potentially wants to get into this new job, if there is any. Yeah? Is there a new position for me that is being created by this transformation? Maybe let's start off with Dr. Liu first. Oh, okay.
Well, for anyone who's looking to job switch into sustainability, I would say the good thing now is that there are a lot of resources available online for free. Go ahead, try and learn what you can for free first, to first understand what you're trying to get into, right? I don't think anyone would want to switch careers, then realize that it's not really something that they want or they like. So making use of resources that are already available online is really important. However, I do have to caution also, there may be misinformation around. But do look for more verified, reputable sources to read up about the topic. And sustainability is very, very broad. There are a lot of things that you can possibly specialize in. Familiarizing yourself with what those different aspects are, and then dipping your toe in, I would say, would be a good way to approach it. Yeah.
Thank you,
Suzy. In terms of IoT and digital twin, I think it's more along the line getting comfortable with the technologies, and you know how to interpret the representations of the machinery in the digital world. And then you will see the common pattern that across different industry, it could be using the same set of tools, let's say the digital twin and the IoT sensors, so you won't be scared anymore. And you will find a lot more opportunities, I would say, to step into different industry. So it happens in, well, IoT and digital twin is just the tip of the iceberg. There are many more technologies available. So that's how humans evolve. We are surrounded by technologies nowadays. So it wouldn't hurt if you can learn more technologies and put more credits on your belt, and then you will have more movability and have a better career path or some sort.
I see we're going counterclockwise, so I'm next, right? I mean, I had to think about the question a bit because maybe it's a misunderstanding. We tend to think that the job is defined by what we just do, the tools of it. This harks back to the point I was talking about earlier. I think jobs are definitely created for desired outcome to begin with. But because of the tools that are present that day, the job characteristics are then specified as such. But they should change with the times, right? So like the example I gave just now, let's say if you're an operations manager, your job is to really make the operations run. Your job is to get high productivity. Does it matter what tools you use to get it? Yes, it matters to you, right? So you should be thinking about what tools do I need? What tools can I get to increase my productivity? And I have changed my job description. Did I change my job? No. The job description may have changed, but my job has not changed. So I don't think we have to think about how we can see our jobs change due to IoT 4.0. In fact, we can only see how we make use of IoT 4.0 to do our jobs better. Inherently, when you do so, you have increased your own human capital, and then of course you become also more job mobile. But to me, that should be a side effect, right? Because there are so many bosses here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
For AMTA, I think we have a very encompassing and almost perfect answer. We have a website, and on that website, we have curated, or we have actually put together about close to 100 courses on almost every single domain of IE 4.0. These courses are actually, I would say, assessed or evaluated by AMTA. There is absolutely zero misinformation. So you can actually go there. There must be something that will interest you. Better still, if you see that these topics cannot really fulfill what you want, leave us a message, and we can curate a course for your company for free.
Thank you very much to this panel. Shall we give this panel a round of applause, please? Well, thank you, Dr. Liu, Jonathan, Ronald, and Sulin, for these great insights of how we might be able to transform organizations and our workplaces. Before you take your leave, there remains one question on my mind. And I ask this on behalf of the organizations that might be listening in here, from here or at online. Got funding or not? Right, everyone's going to ask that question, right? Got funding or not, right? Okay, well, here is, well, and how is IAL supporting me on this journey of transformation and learning? As we take our leave, let me invite Ivan to share with us about the latest initiatives and the events that would interest you, and for those organizations that have high potential prototypes or value concepts but need help in testing and prototyping their brilliance and value. Ivan, please.
Thank you, distinguished panelists and Daryl. I'm Ivan from the Institute for Adult Learning. I guess there have been very good insights that we have gleaned today from the panelists pertaining to topics and challenges around Industry 4.0, transformation. One of the core of the issue is that transformation cannot happen without involving your people, human beings. How do you bring them on that transformation journey? One of the key enabler on that is learning. All right. When you ask about, hey, now I'm keen to get a deeper dive into Industry 4.0, into these possible solutions that are out there, how do I enable that? How do I bring about a training and learning mechanism that makes sense for my manufacturing process? So I think here, IAL, we do have some funding schemes and programs. We are not saying that we have the solution, but here is where we are inviting industry players like yourself from advanced manufacturing to participate and to co-create and to co-develop solutions together. So we have a scheme with a we have a open innovation grant program called InnovPlus. It's a prototyping grant with up to $200,000, where we collect learning challenge statements from companies in Singapore, in this case from manufacturing sector. We will put them through open publication and bring solutions into the fray to help you solve these challenges. Thereafter, as a challenge owner, you are free to decide which are the solutions you want to pick. You can pick a mix of it. Thereafter, then you go into a competition where you have a month to come up with a concept, the prototype, before you go in front of a panel of judges to pitch for $200,000. So typically, we run 2 runs of InnovPlus every year. We have been able to attract 8 to 10 challenge statements, and we will award about 2 to 3 of these challenge statements with $200,000 each to a prototype. So we have been running this program for the past 7 years. With this size and sum of amount, it is indeed indicative of the kind of scale and innovation that we are looking at. So we do have, somehow the fonts are turning out wrong, but that's not an issue. Okay, we do have a lot of various industries and sectors participating in InnovPlus in the past 6 to 7 years. However, we are not seeing a lot of representation from manufacturing, from advanced manufacturing. We want to engage you guys. Perhaps this is the first time that you're hearing that, hey, there is a $200,000 grant out there. How come I am not aware of? So this is the very grants that scheme that you can participate in, and on screen here are just some of the categories that you can see how you may want to bring onto the table to look for a solution that is highly customized, that push the boundary a bit in how you enable your employees and your workforce. So you can scan the QR code to take a look at what are some of the past highlights. Interestingly, we have been able to attract a lot of healthcare challenge statements, so in the field from medtech and all this, so you can go through them and to see what kind of innovations we have put out to that end. Oh, this is not the latest slide though. This is not the latest one. So, but regardless, what's on screen here is supposed to say that connect with us. We have an InnovPlus for advanced manufacturing. So I mentioned earlier that we run 2 rounds a year, but we are opening up a specific sector-specific InnovPlus run this year for advanced manufacturing. So please scan this QR code, give us your contact details if you are keen to participate. We are happy to reach out to you to help you flesh out, craft your challenge statements, facilitate this process for you because we know it's not easy. Or you can also email both the person on screen here, who are my colleagues, Jeannie and Zach. Just briefly, okay. IL, besides programs and schemes coming from the Innovation Center, all right, we also have other programs and initiatives that even from the manufacturing space, you can immediately participate on. So we also have workplace learning programs, very much as you involve this kind of very high-level technology kind of equipment, how do you redesign job processes? We do provide consultancy and frameworks with funding up to, I think, $15,000 for you to participate in. Okay, I shall move on. Coming to a close, I hope you found the session today very insightful, knowledgeable, especially for advanced manufacturing. The next innovLogue is a month away. Sorry, maybe about 3 weeks away, 21st of April, where we are targeting a topic on generative AI and how it's going to impact learning and training. I think in the past few months, the furore that ChatGPT has created and how this is able to support faster creation of learning and training content. So we are bringing in a panel for another conversation. So that will be on the 21st of April. So do scan the QR code. Likewise, we also have another advanced manufacturing topics on robotics, simplifying robotics, where we are going to host a fireside chat with one of the innovators in this space, Augmenting. They have a low-code or no-code platform to actually help to help in the manufacturing environment to actually control, say, a machine arm. So do come in, do and join this fireside chat session, which we are holding it on the 20th of April. Okay, last but not least, we would like to invite your feedback to the session today, how it went. So please take a moment, scan this QR code, give us your honest opinion on what you think about innovLogue and the topics. What are the future topics that you are looking at for the next few minutes? And, okay. Oops. Yeah, all right. I think we have come to the end of the session today. Okay, the QR code is not working. All right. Okay, sure. I guess my apologies on the QR code. I think something happened there because I think there was another set of slides, but it's turning out wrong. All right. Without much further ado, for the online audience, thank you so much for your time today. We will be cutting our transmission soon for the online audience, but for the audience on site, we do have a open networking session on premise here with refreshments and networking. Likewise, there is an open house later on at the Bosch Rexworth Regional Training Center just above us. So for those who are interested to take a look at how the latest advanced manufacturing training is taking place, do avail yourself in about 10 to 15 minutes time. Just hang around near the door and someone from JTC will bring us up. All right, thank you so much.